Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Natalia Viktorovna Yeнгай, and I'm glad to present you a topic carbon dating. But firstly, I'd like you to answer the question: what chemical elements links a diamond, ink, a bone, and coal? Of course, that is carbon. So, as you saw, the topic of our lesson is carbon dating. But how do you understand the topic of this lesson? You know that carbon is a chemical element. Dating is a process to identify the age. Carbon dating is a process when we identify the age of different fossils with the help of carbon. So, lesson objectives for this lesson and of course the plan of our work is discuss the topic on the basis of the suggested questions, recognize the patterns of the text and put them in order, present the information as a graphic organizer. And now your turn. Please think and make notes what you would like to know about the topic. Set your own goals. Okay, and if you are ready, let's see how our students did it.
I'm familiar with this topic. I met this in studying chemistry. I would like to know more about this. Because I met this topic only partially in chemistry.
I'm not familiar with this theme, but as I can see in our lesson objectives, we have the work with the text, so I may suggest that I will know more about this theme working with this text.
I find carbon dating on the topic of the lesson, and I think that carbon dating is somehow connected with chemistry and defines the age of objects which are made of carbon or without carbon. I would like to define more about this method. And as I see, the last lesson objective is to present the information as a graphic organizer. It means that we will get more information about carbon dating and we will be able to draw some pictures which will help other people who don't know this topic to understand it.
Actually, it is the first time I hear about the method of the defining of the age of something. And I would like to know as much as possible about it during this lesson.
Okay, and firstly, we are going to watch the video. How does carbon dating work? But before it, let's try to complete this ABC brainstorm organizer. You see that the task is to write the name of the topic in the empty space and write all the associations which you can have according to this topic. If you have some samples like this one, with only 4 words like CO2 or energy, research and scientific, that is enough for this stage. Of course, more experienced students can have something like this one: archaeology, bioengineering, and by the way, if you have some spelling mistakes, that is not a really great mistake because you will have the time to correct them. Let's continue. Chemical, dinosaur, egg, fossil, genetic, isotope, nucleus, protons, radioactive, science. More experienced students can have something like this one. You see that there are much more words here: atom, biological, chemistry, dinosaurs, eggs, fossils, genetic, human, isotope, kinetic, living things, molecule, neutrons, objects, particle, quality, research, science, temperature. So, your task is not just to watch the video, but complete this ABC brainstorm. So, how does radiocarbon dating work? Watch the video and complete the organizers.
How do we know how old something is? For people, we'd ask to see their birth certificate. For trees, we'd count the rings. But how do we know how old a fossil is? Fossils have their own internal clock. Scientists can read it by looking at the ratio of two different types of carbon atoms. Of course, every living thing is made of carbon. Plants grab carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and use it to form complex organic molecules. Animals get their carbon by eating these plants. But there's more than one form of carbon. Most carbon atoms have 6 protons and 6 neutrons. We call this carbon-12. High up in the atmosphere, sometimes cosmic rays hit nitrogen atoms. This creates carbon with 6 protons and 8 neutrons. We call this carbon-14. Carbon-12 and carbon-14 behave alike, but carbon-14 has one unique and important attribute. It's unstable. So once an animal dies, the carbon-14 in its body will start to go away. Every 5,730 years on average, about half of the carbon-14 atoms will decay into nitrogen. This is its half-life. After one half-life, the animal will have about half the amount of carbon-14 it started with. After another half-life, it will have about a quarter. And after another half-life, it will have about an eighth. By contrast, the amount of carbon-12 it has in its body will stay the same. By measuring the ratio of carbon-14 to carbon-12, we can measure how many thousands of years have passed since the animal died. Carbon dating works for fossils up to about 60,000 years old. For older fossils, scientists use unstable elements that have much longer half-lives. For Scientific American's Instant Egghead, I'm Michael Moyer.
Okay, so after watching the video, you can share the results of your work, and in this case, the results can be something like this one. You see that to the words which were written before, some words appeared, such as archaeology, age, carbon dioxide, carbon-14, carbon-12, decompose, decay, elements, half-life, measure, nitrogen, organic, rate, ratio, radioactive, extremely, years, fossilized. You see that sometimes it's very difficult to find the words with the beginning letters like W, X, Y, Z, and V. In this case, you can just put the words which contain these letters. So, let's go further. On the base of this video, can you answer the question, how does carbon get into living organisms? So, if you are not so experienced in the topic of biology or chemistry, your answer can be like this one. Simple diagram that atmospheric carbon goes to plants. Plants are producing the carbon as well, and humans and animals consume the plants and produce atmospheric carbon. And of course, your answers can be something like this one. You see, this diagram is more complex than previous. So, let's watch how our students did it.
Well, how does carbon get into living organisms? There is a lot of carbon in fossils and plants, which are growing. When they grow, they have carbon in their bodies, and when animals, it is tree. when animals eat plants, the carbon goes into their bodies, and that's why every living organism has carbon in it. Has carbon in its bones and skin and other parts.
So in the air, we have CO2 dioxide, and first of all, this carbon dioxide diffuses to the ground and land. Plants use this CO2 for growth. They absorb this CO2. Using carbons, plants create their new molecules and cells in their organism. After some time, parts of the plants decompose, and they create fossil fuels. And some fabrics use these fossil fuels. And this process is called combustion. When after use of CO2, then after use of these fossil fuels, the carbon dioxide is released. Also, CO2 is taken by animals. Because when animals grow and there is a respiration process, so animals take O2 and release CO2.
Why do you use the compound of CO2, not just the carbon?
In all this process we use carbon complexes and different compounds because carbon by itself is unstable.
Okay, so and the next question, what is the difference between carbon-12 and carbon-14? The answer was very clear pronounced. You see, carbon-12 has 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Carbon-14 has 6 protons and 8 neutrons. And the next question, why is the carbon-14 considered like unique? Do you remember? Yes, you are right. Because it is unstable. And the main question, how do we know the age of fossils? I suppose you remember 2 different colored lines, blue line and red line, in the graph. So the answer is measure the ratio between C12, carbon-12 to carbon-14. For more information, let's read the text about this interesting process like carbon dating. And the goal for this reading text is recognize patterns of development in lengthy texts into paragraph level on a range of more complex and abstract general and curricular topics. And success criterion for this text is you achieve the goal if you give 8 out of 10 correct answers. So, let's go. The first task, read the text quickly and answer the questions. What patterns contains the information about? The first one, 2 methods of dating objects. Second, how to identify the age of a dead plant. The third, carbon in plants. The fourth, significance of carbon. And the fifth, the process of isotopes transformation. you see that there is a very big text with the information which we really need, and there are 5 paragraphs there. Use skimming technique to answer the questions. Consider reading the first sentence of each paragraph. This technique is useful when you're seeking specific information rather than reading for comprehension. So, the first paragraph, A. Let's read the first sentence. The half-life of carbon-14 is 5,730 years, which means that in 5,713 years, half the carbon-14 atoms will have changed to nitrogen. At the same time, we can clearly see some keywords here like a dead plant, the ratio in living plants, when the plant died. Look through the list of the names and choose the number. The second paragraph, B. The first sentence, in the early decades of the 20th century, scientists first developed an understanding that certain elements are radioactive and that these unstable isotopes decayed or lost particles from their nuclei, thus becoming different elements at a constant rate over time. And the keywords here, I see parent transformed into daughter. Choose the right number for this letter, please. The third paragraph. Before we come to the carbon dating, we have to understand why carbon is so important. The answer is obvious. Just choose the right number. Paragraph D. Scientists choose from 2 primary techniques to determine the age of artifacts and other objects found in the earth with the help of carbon. And looking through the text, I see 2 different words here, like radiocarbon dating and radiometric dating. Please choose the right number. And the last paragraph. Living plants exchange their carbon with the carbon in the air. Other living things dies. So, just put the number near the letter, or letter near the number. Let's check whether you did this work correctly. The key, the first D, the second A, the third E, the fourth C, and the fifth B. Thank you for your work. Let's go further. The next step is to put the paragraphs into the right order. But I see the first key sentence. Before we come to the carbon dating, we have to understand why carbon is so important. So the significance, that is the first paragraph. Usually, when we see such types of texts, the general information go before the specific one. So think what paragraphs contain general information or maybe historic data. After it, think about specific information. And as you noticed, there is no the final paragraph with the summarizing or something like that. Please be attentive. So, you can compare your results in pairs or groups and, of course, write answers. The first one, C, the second and the third, B or D, the fourth, E, and the fifth, A. Let's turn back to our success criterion. Our congratulations if you achieved the goal and you have 8, no less than 8 correct answers. And we have some additional questions if you don't have enough correct answers to achieve this goal. So, the first question, what is the source of carbon in your body? Do plants and animals have the same proportion of carbon-14 and carbon-12? Explain your reasoning. Can you think of specific instances where radiocarbon dating has provided valuable evidence? Let's watch how our students did it.
Based on the text, the carbon is very important and it's around 18% in the body, and I calculated that the value of carbon in my body is 10.8 kilograms. That's why I think that it's around 1 of 5 parts in my body, and I think that it's very important.
I think our body is a source of carbons and different carbon compounds. For example, there are sugars, CO2, which are produced during different metabolisms and respiration process. And that's why our body is full of various compounds which contain carbon.
Well, I'm not sure about the information whether it was given in this video, but in the fifth paragraph of the given text, it is certainly written that all the things, all the living things which are plants or depend on plants, they contain the same amount of carbon-14 and carbon-12. It's the same ratio.
Scientists choose the primary techniques to determine the age of some bones, for example, some age artifacts, for example, of dinosaurs. They use the radiocarbon dating. It's used for the dating once living organisms better than less 40,000 or 60,000 years ago. It's used to determine the age of it and to build the whole organisms and to know something new about this, about some new creations.
Okay, and now let's work in 2 groups using the next graphic organizers. You see, the names of these organizers are hand model and anticipation guide. But before it, let's turn back to our ABC brainstorm organizer. After the reading of the text, maybe some additional words appeared here, and these words will be helpful for you. What is hand model? Hand model is useful for the 5 W questions: who, what, when, where, and why. Each finger on the hand can correspond with each W question, and the palm of the hand can be used to record information that answers how. Anticipation guide. Create statements that relate to the text. Choose either agree or disagree after each statement. And of course, it would be better before the work to define the success criteria for this work. Let's watch how our students did it.
They will achieve the success criteria if they will answer 7 or 8 right answers, if they give this amount of answers. If they don't give, then they don't achieve, and they tend to.
The success criteria for the second group are determined in that way that if they will answer 4 questions or more correctly, then they will achieve.
By the end of this work, you can get something like this. The first question, what is half-life? The second, who carbon is necessary for? The third, where carbon is an essential part of usage. The fourth, when does the process of transformation start? The fourth, why does carbon-14 content decrease? And the palm question, how do the scientists use the knowledge about carbon dating? Now you see graphic organizer with all notes which our students did. And anticipation guide. You see that there are some statements here, like carbon dating method can be used for determining the age of 1-year-old object. Carbon forms carbon dioxide, which is greenhouse gas. Carbon is stable. All the plants and animals are radioactive. C14 and C12 are isotopes. By volume, around 18% of the human body is carbon. Carbon is the basic building block for living organisms. Reaction carbon-40 to nitrogen is reversible. Don't forget that you work with the text using these graphic organizers. And be attentive with this anticipation guide, because our practice presents that hand model is much easier. After this work, try to discuss all the correct or incorrect answers which you do. Let's watch how our students did it.
Radiocarbon dating method can be used for determination of the age of 1-year-old object. We disagree with this statement because in the text, according to the text, once living matter less than 40,000 to 60 years old. The second statement, carbon forms carbon oxide, which is greenhouse gas. We disagree with this statement because in the text write that carbon form is dioxide, which is greenhouse.
The next is statement that carbon is stable. This we agree with this statement because it is known that carbon is one of the most stable elements on the Earth. All the plants and animals are radioactive. We disagree with this statement because if plants and animals were radioactive, they wouldn't live so much.
C14 and C12 are isotopes. I agree with this statement because there is some information in paragraph E. You can see some information that there is some isotopes. It's carbon-12 and carbon-14. The next is by volume, around 18% of the human body is carbon. We disagree with the statement because there is information that by weight around 18% of the human body is carbon.
for some mistake. And so the seventh statement is that carbon is the basic building block for living organisms, and this statement. And the last is a reaction of the transformations from C14 to N is reversible. We disagree with the statement because it is chemically proved that it is impossible to get C14 from nitrogen.
They completed only half of our tasks. May take a look at the questions and to explain. The first was written that radiocarbon dating methods can be used for determining the age of 1-year-old objects. In the text, there is given that radiocarbon dating is used for dating less than 40,000 years old, and one is less than 40,000, obviously. So the right question, yes, the statement is true. The third one, carbon is stable. We agree with it. Yes, you agree too. No, you told that carbon is stable. Carbon 14 and carbon 12, they're also carbons, but carbon 14 is not stable.
As you didn't point exactly what carbon you meant, we counted it as C12.
I agree with your opinion because maybe it's just your point of view, and maybe you thought about only C12. So we put you 1 mark. So the first question was, all the plants and animals are radioactive. You didn't agree with this statement, but in the last paragraph of the text there is written that carbon 14 is radioactive and slowly decays. But as you know, plants and animals, they contain C14. It means that they're radioactive. The last question was, the reaction C14 to nitrogen is reversible. As it is written in the last paragraph, the C14 is got from attacking the nitrogen atoms. And nitrogen is also got from decaying of C14. So we can get from nitrogen the C14 and from C14 the nitrogen. Maybe it will be better for you to read every partial word and to try to understand how it's meaning and to find it in the text.
The first question is, what is half-life? Half-life is time period when half of the remaining radioactive atoms will decay.
For the second one, who carbon is necessary for? The carbon is useful for any living creatures.
The third question.
Be more specific.
We will answer your questions later. The third question, where carbon is an essential part of usage. It is essential for cells of living organisms and for human activities.
The fourth one, when does the process of transformation start? There are two processes of transformation, from C14 to nitrogen and from nitrogen to C14. So the process of transforming the nitrogen to C14 starts when it is bombarded by cosmic rays. And another process starts when the C14 decays.
Why does carbon 14 content decrease? The carbon 14 content decreases because it is radioactive and decays into nitrogen.
So the last question is, how do the scientists use their knowledge about carbon dating? As we understood, you asked us to describe the way they use it. They compare the ratio of C14 to the amount of C12 in the organism, in anything, in living creature which was living, or in plants. And as the C14 level decreases during the time, they can define the age of the object.
The answer for the first question was completely right. And who carbon is necessary for? With the question we meant we wanted you to be more specific and to make some examples. That's why you got 5 out of 6.
So, we came to the stage of reflection. Please make notes answering the following questions. Have you achieved your goals, which you set at the beginning of the lesson? Why do you think so? What was the strongest? What needs to be improved? Thank you. If you need more information, you can easily find these sources on these websites. And you will see this lesson on Moodle site as well. Thank you for your attention and for the time which you spent with us. Goodbye.